the expression of our face, be attractive for our kids, be positive, smiling, and speak a lower voice.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Kindly.
Kindly. What we're going to talk about are how to speak when you don't share a common language, how to communicate without a common language, or when you're teaching or learning a new language, how to communicate when there's a gap in the language. I have lived in Russia for 2 years, and I speak very little Russian. I can say hello, goodbye, how are you? I can say skoika, but I don't understand numbers. So my communication strategy in that is to ask them to write it down. I can't ask them to write it down because I don't have the words to say that. So I have to use gestures or use the calculator app on my phone and ask them to put in numbers. So it's all of the ways that we communicate without using a common language. It is not important that your teachers be fluent in English. It is important that they only speak English in the classroom. It's the amount of English that the children are exposed to. Obviously, the older they get, and the more fluent you want your teachers to be. But it is possible at the early ages, the beginnings when they're just learning, for someone who is not a native speaker and has a moderate level of English. It is possible for them to teach the program that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Because what the kids need is to hear the language and to use the language. But when they walk into your classroom, now, me not knowing Russian works to my advantage in the classroom. Makes it a little more difficult in real life. But in the classroom, in order for the students to communicate with me, they must speak English.
No parents.
I'm sorry?
No parents.
Right. And that's what we want. We want to create a need for the children to speak English. And so when we only speak English, and I'll talk about this more in the general session that I do about 100% English environment, but we create that need for them to learn the language. So, how do I do this? If they don't speak any English, and I don't speak their native language, and here at this school, last year in my preschool class, I had students from 11 different countries. Now, there were some Russians, there were some students who English was their first language, but I had one who spoke Portuguese as his first language. I don't speak Portuguese. I had two that spoke Korean as their native language. I don't speak Korean. So we have to learn how to communicate without using a common language. So now that I've explained a little bit more about what do you think are some communication skills, I've shared some of them with you, or not skills, strategies that we can use to communicate. I'm sorry? Sign language. Gestures would be, because the sign language is actually tied to a native language. So yes, we can use gestures.
Just
showing, modeling what we would like for them to do. Write or draw. We can draw pictures. These are all different ways that we can use, different strategies we can use to communicate. So when I teach the English, teaching the children, we do a lot of modeling. We use a lot of pictures as another example. We'll use these in a class a little bit later, having a picture of something. Always better if I have the real thing, but if I don't, using a picture. If I don't have a picture, drawing a picture. I keep some white laminated cardstock in my classroom with wipe-off pens, dry erase pens in there, so that I can pull those out and I can draw a picture, let them draw a picture. A national teacher teaches one of two things in their classroom. They either teach that English is a part of our life and is a language that we use, or they teach that not even the English teacher uses English. And if children learn, if you have spent any time in a classroom or have your own children, you know that children learn much more by what we do than what we say. And so if I spoke Russian and wanted to speak to my monitor in front of my children and I spoke in Russian, they automatically know, what's the point in learning this? Why, they're not, you have just negated the need for them to learn it. Why do they need to learn the language if the teachers don't even use the language? So we need to develop these strategies. And another strategy is using different words, finding a word that I know that's kind of similar, kind of along the lines of what I want to say, and using other words, or coining a new word. Do you know what coining is? It's creating a term, basically. So if I wanted to talk about that thing that is on a string and you put air in it, and sometimes it floats, and an air ball. Do you know what I'm talking about? A balloon. A balloon. So finding different ways to say the same thing. That I know I don't know the word, but I can describe it to you. I can use the words that I do have to communicate with you. We have to remember as we're teaching that there's a gap in what we teach and what the children learn. The child needs to hear the word at least 5 times before they will learn the word. And then they're going to forget it. And so you'll say it another 5 times. And then they'll forget it. And you'll say it another 5 times. And then they'll forget it. 5 more times, and they might learn it. We we use a lot of repetition. We say the same thing over and over and over again. I had 2 students join my class last year in April, in April last year. Brother and sister Korean students spoke no English. And so it is of course a lot easier when all the students come in at the same time and they're all in the same place in learning English. So in April, we're starting at the beginning again with 2 students and trying to get them to speak. They've probably been there about a month when the older brother, who was 5 years old, says, "Preschool, clean up!" Clear as day. I'm like, okay, so now I know what words we say a lot. So we have to repeat over and over and over again for the students to learn the words. What we don't want to do is translate. The brain learns differently when you're translating than it does when you're teaching as a second language. And when you translate, the children are not really learning the word. They're learning how to translate, how to make that switch. And as English as a second language means that they should be able to learn in English. They should be able to learn in the second language. And if they have to translate everything in order to learn a concept, they're not going to learn that concept. All of their energy is going to be used translating. So we want to make sure that we don't translate anything. So if I want to communicate to you that it's time to leave, can somebody show me how you might use that without using words? It's time to go. Mm-hmm. Walking towards the door, opening the door, time to go. What about if a child is doing something and you want them to stop and they don't know the word stop? It's the first day of school and a child is
noisy.
How are you going to communicate?
Stop.
Maybe they know this,
Maybe not.
maybe not. It depends on the age of the child, too.
Maybe to come up with each one.
Take their hands.
Close your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
close your ear, close your mouth.
Mm-hmm. A lot of charades go on when you're teaching a foreign language, a second language to students. I would like to give you all more opportunities to practice this, but we're going to do that later in the week. I got back to Russia Friday morning, and got my schedule of what I was teaching on Saturday afternoon. And so this morning I have been trying to pull together all of my resources. And the last day of school last year, they told us, your classroom has to be completely packed because we're going to paint. So I have spent the morning digging through boxes in my classroom to come up with the things that I want. So at some point tomorrow, in one of the sessions, I will have some words and phrases that you all will need to demonstrate to the rest of the class. And some ways that you'll do that are gestures. I'll have what you need to draw things, and again, you can, we'll do at least one round where there's no talking, and then we may do another round or two where you can use words, you just can't use that particular word. So we're going to take a quick break. Because a lot of what I want to cover with communication strategies is also what we're going to do for the next session, which is I'm going to demonstrate speaking English as a second, or speaking English, our curriculum for you. So if you want to take a 7-minute break, 8-minute break, and come back at 3 o'clock. And we'll actually sit down and we'll do a speaking English lesson for you. Okay? Hello. I am Miss L. Hello, Isaiah. Correct? Hello, Isaiah. I am Miss L. You are Isaiah. Hello. Tapua. Hello, Tapua. I am Miss L. You are Tapua. Hello, Oksana. I am Miss L. You are Oksana. Hello, Babaluka. I am Miss L. You are Veronica. Hello, Natalia. Natalia. I am Miss L. You are Natalia. Hello. Hello. Hello, Isaiah. Hello, Oksana.
Hello.
Hello, Natalia. Hello, Veronica. Hello, Tapua. We are going to learn some new words today. I want you to sit and watch. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Now you join me. Stand up. Sit down. Stand up. Sit down. Stand up. Sit down. Stand up. Sit down. Very good. You did a great job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now we know, stand up and sit down. Let's point, 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 point. Can you show me your finger? Point. 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 Point to the door. Point to the door. Oksana, can you point to the door? Good job. Isaiah, can you point to the door? To the door, yes. Can you point to the door over here? Natalia, can you point to the door? Great. Good job. This is a chair. Point to the chair. Point to the chair. Tapiwa, Tapiwa.
Yes.
Point to the chair. Veronica, point to the chair. Point to the door. Point to the door. Point to the chair. Point to the window. Point to the window. Point to the window. 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 Can you say door with me? Door.
Door.
Good job. Door.
Door.
Very good. Door.
Door.
Awesome. Door.
Door.
Wonderful.
Door.
Great. You guys are doing so great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. Let's learn some body parts.
Head and shoulders, knees and toes.
Very good. Head. 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 Miss L's head. Miss L's head. Isaiah, where is your head? Good job. A 5-year-old would point to my head. Head. You want head. Great. Head. Head. Oop. Shoulders. Shoulders. This is a hard one to say. Can you say shoulders? Shoulders.
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 Shoulders. Good job. Knee. 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 Toes. 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 Veronica, show me your toes. Toes. Good job. Toes. Where are your toes? Good job. Toes. All right, we're going to sing a song about head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So I need everyone to stand up. We're going to start with our head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees and toes. Good job! You did great. Everybody participated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job. All right, let's try that again. Let's start, where are we going to start?
With the head.
Head. All right? Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Great job, you all did great. All right, we're going to play a little game. Everybody, sit down. I want you to listen to my words. Listen to my words. I will help you with my hands at first. Okay? Listen to my words. Point to the door. Point to the window. Stand up. Point to the chair. Point to the table that I forgot to introduce earlier. Sit down. Stand up. Point to the window. Sit down. Point to the door. Stand up. Point to the table. Point to the chair. Sit down. Point to the table. Point to the door. Stand up. Point to the window. Point to the chair. Point to the door. Good job. All right. You got through the whole lesson. Yay, remembered everything. That of course went a lot smoother than if I were speaking to you in a language that nobody understood. But you get the general idea. You're just going to repeat everything. And especially when you introduce a word, try to count and make sure that you say it at least 5 times. And you will have a hard time with the concept of pointing. They look at their finger. I used a different version of head, shoulders, knees, and toes than what is in the lesson plan. The one they use doesn't use the facial things. We learn those in lesson 2. So I go ahead, I don't expect them to know that part of it. I don't expect them to know any of it. The more you can sing to the students, the more that they will retain. I've had parents ask me, can you send me a list of the words to the songs that you sing to the kids? Because they're at home singing and I don't know what they're saying and don't don't know if they're correct. Or they'll be singing and, you know, Mommy, how does it go? And Mommy's like, I don't know. So the more you can sing, the easier it is for them to remember the words. I have a poem that is good a few lessons in once we learn wall and ceiling and floor, because it incorporates point to the window, point to the door, point to the ceiling, point to the floor. And if you can sing song that as well, but anything that will make it easier for the children to remember it. Songs are great for that. So we use a lot of songs. Also want to use positive motivation, especially when you're beginning with the speaking English. And if they are paying attention, they get merits. You're going to have some in the class that are shy and will not try to speak. But as long as they're paying attention and participating, even if they won't speak. Now, the farther down the road you get into it, then they have to say the